Hello everyone. In this video, we'll be discussing about the carbohydrate diversity, and particular focus will be on hexose because they are the most abundant sugars. Let me first begin with a very simple question to you. What do you understand by a simple formula C6H12O6? Probably when I ask this question to a number of students, the answer comes as glucose. That shouldn't surprise me, but ideally most of us are told in the high school or middle school that C6H12O6 mostly means glucose. But we realize that in the higher education that C6H12O6 might represent a number of other sugars which can collectively be called as hexose, and that might represent either fructose or galactose or mannose. There will be a variety of structures. So this represents diversity of carbohydrate structures, but one question remains: why do we need to care about this whole diversity? So I have one simple correlation with your real life. If I ask you about what your clothes are made up of, or the paper on which you write what it is made up of, probably you will answer, yes, it's polymer of glucose. And what about starch? What about potato that you eat? What about rice that you eat? What it is made up of? The same glucose polymer. But do you think the same glucose polymer is present in both? Can we interchange our choice? Can we eat clothes to get the same amount of energy, or can we make clothes out of starch? Is that really possible? No, it's not possible. And the reason is, cellulose is a polymer of slightly structurally different carbohydrate which is called beta glucose, whereas starch which we eat is made up of alpha glucose anomeric form. Now this is the reason why we need to focus on structural diversity of carbohydrates, because they matter a lot when they come to the biological system. For a chemist, these things may not be very important because they are very minute subtle changes in the structures. But when they come to the biological systems, since enzymes and a lot of other things are very specific, so there the slight change in the shape also matters a lot, and that's why we need to study the diversity of structures. Now the focus of this lecture is not basically to discuss the whole details of carbohydrates, that can take another video, but we will be limiting ourselves to discussion on how to remember, how to draw these kind of structures, and how to identify different carbohydrate structures, which is based on one of my recent research that I have published, and it is likely to introduce a new idea or a new concept of sigma notations which makes you very comfortable for drawing those structures. And by the end of this video, you will be able to draw more than 100 different structures of carbohydrates. So let us start with the overview of this video. We will have a brief discussion about what carbohydrates are, how the diversity is generated in carbohydrates, and then we will focus mostly on how to prepare, how to make these structures of carbohydrates in one go, and what are the tricks and techniques to make the carbohydrate structures at your own. Let us begin with the definition of carbohydrates. As you know, the carbohydrates, the word suggests, they are hydrates of carbon, but that might be slightly misleading, because if you just have one carbon atom and you draw H2O, that is hydration, then you may end up with a molecule called HCHO or formaldehyde, which is not exactly a carbohydrate. So this is not a right definition to call a carbohydrate merely hydrates of carbon if you do not include or mention the number of carbon atoms. Therefore, a much precise definition was presented about the carbohydrates, which is a textbook definition known as polyhydroxyaldehydes or polyhydroxyketones. What does it mean? In your high school chemistry, you would have studied about some kind of compounds which have functional groups CHO, that is aldehyde, or functional groups C double bond O, somewhere in between the carbon backbone, which is called as ketone. These two kind of functional groups may collectively called as carbonyls, and these carbonyl compounds, along with at least two or more than two hydroxyl groups, will constitute carbohydrates. So if we talk about the smallest or the simplest carbohydrate, that molecule is going to have at least 3 carbon atoms. One carbon atom will bear the functional group, that is either aldehyde or ketone, whereas remaining 2 carbon atoms will contain hydroxyl group. We may also presume that two carbon atoms may be required, where one carbon will have two hydroxyl group to make it a polyhydroxyaldehyde or ketone. But in chemistry, such kind of molecules are found to be unstable. We do not have generally two hydroxyl groups stably attached to a single carbon atom. So smallest carbohydrate, or the best possible structure of minimal or smallest carbohydrate, will be having three carbon atoms. And those molecules include two isomeric forms. One of them is called as glyceraldehyde, that contains aldehyde group, and another one is called as dihydroxyacetone. Now, after learning this, that we have two basic carbohydrate structures, dihydroxyacetone and glyceraldehyde, which are primarily isomers of each other, this is the point where the diversity of structures begin. If you ask me that why do 6C6H12O6 has got so many structures, so the reason behind that begins, or it comes from the basic chemistry that states that atoms in a molecule can rearrange themselves to give rise to new structures, which are commonly known as isomers. So we have plenty of isomeric forms of carbohydrate that give rise to its diversity. In general, we can say there will be few classes of isomerism. One of the class may be called as structural class, where there will be differences in the structures, which may include chain isomerism, functional isomerism, which is commonly seen in a lot of organic molecules. But on the other hand, few structures might differ not in the arrangement of atoms, but also in the arrangement of atoms in three-dimensional space. And those kind of isomeric structures are known as stereoisomers. So these are the two factors. We primarily have functional isomerism in carbohydrates, which group them into two categories, either aldose sugars or ketose sugars. Those which with aldehyde are aldose sugars, and those with ketose group or ketone group are called as ketose sugars. On the other hand, each of these compounds, whether it is an aldose compound or it is a ketose compound, each of them can have a number of stereoisomeric structures that vary in space. Now, as we move ahead and we increase the number of carbon atoms in the backbone, we can move from the simplest carbohydrate, which is having three carbon atoms called triose, to next carbon atom, that is a next carbohydrate which is having four carbon atoms, and it may be called as tetrose. Then we might have pentose with 5 carbon atoms, hexose with 6 carbon atoms, and haptoses with 7 carbon atoms. There may be even more, but if we look at the abundance of the carbohydrate structures, we would realize that hexoses are one of the most abundant class of carbohydrates, and that's why our focus will mainly remain on hexose. But before actually moving into the hexose diversity, let us first talk about the arrangement of atoms which give rise to the diversity of these atoms. So let us start with the fundamental of how structural diversity is generated in the carbohydrate, and let us begin with the basic structure of simplest carbohydrate, that is glyceraldehyde. You may be knowing that glyceraldehyde has got a central carbon atom or the middle carbon atom, which is connected to 4 different atoms. On one side it is hydroxyl group, on other side it is hydrogen, on one side it is aldehyde group or CHO group, whereas on the other side it is CH2OH group. And such kind of carbon atoms in the organic chemistry which have 4 different atoms attached to them are referred to as chiral carbon atom or asymmetric carbon atoms. Now, what is the importance of these kind of atoms in structural chemistry or in stereochemistry? The importance is that as far as you have a single atom to which 2 atoms or 2 things are connected which are same or identical, in that case, whether you turn it around or whether you change the position of these 2 atoms, exchange the position of these 2 atoms, nothing is going to happen or no diversity will be created. But if you have an atom to which 2 different things are arranged which occupy a different stereo space and you exchange them, then that leads to a different kind of structure. So this is how the diversity of structures generates in the carbohydrates. Let's have a look at a very basic structure of with the help of a model. I'm using these 4 markers to represent 4 different groups attached to central carbon atom in glyceraldehyde. Let us presume that this red color is representing CHO group and this black color is representing CH2OH group. this is representing hydroxyl group, and let's say this is representing a hydrogen atom. And let me arrange them how they are actually present in three-dimensional space. So we can say that they are arranged tetrahedrally or in the three-dimensional space, something like this. So you can see here right now that this is one CHO group, this is one CH2OH group, this is OH group, and this is hydrogen atom. So what presumably changes when you flip some of these structures, like for example you have H and OH, and if I change the relative positions of these two things like this is going to give rise to a new structure, and that structure will be the mirror image of previous structure. And these things which are arising due to the change in position of atoms across the chiral carbon atom or asymmetric carbon atom are referred to as stereoisomers. And if they are mirror images of each other, then they will be called as enantiomers of each other. There may be more instances like this. So suppose if you move further, if you have more than one chiral carbon atom in a molecule, then instead of simply two stereoisomers, which we saw in case of glyceraldehyde, we will have even more number of stereoisomers. So in case of glyceraldehyde, as we have seen, there were two possible structures. One of them may be assigned a name called D form, another may be assigned a name called L form. So these structures L and D forms were assigned arbitrarily in the initial days, and there was some relation with the rotation which was found associated with the tartaric acid and other molecules, which later on found to be incorrect, that every time D and L nomenclature does not represent optical rotation towards right or towards left. But particularly in case of carbohydrates, we now have a reference molecule, that is glyceraldehyde, and we look at the relative arrangement of H and OH across these molecules to define that whether a molecule is D or L form. Now one more thing I would like to emphasize here, that when we see the molecules on a plane of paper in a textbook, let's say, or when we draw it in a notebook, then we draw it in 2 dimensions. Whereas if we really look at the molecule in 3 dimensions, they will have some atoms protruding towards you, some of the molecules away from your plane. So how do we represent them? And there was an excellent way which was presented by Emil Fischer. He came out with an idea that how we can depict these structures which are protruding out of the plane of paper and those which are going away from you. So let's again look back to the same example. Suppose this is again a glyceraldehyde molecule which has got 4 different connectivities. It has 4 different things attached to it. Let's say this is, for example, CHO group, this is hydrogen atom, this is hydroxyl group, and this is CH2OH group. Now, if you want to represent it in a plane of paper, what Emil Fischer suggested, that those atoms or those groups which are protruding towards you, they can be represented by a solid wedge, whereas those which are moving away from you, that's backward, if you are observing from front, then they can be represented by a dashed wedge, as you can see in the picture on the screen. Now when we have to represent these structures in a sheet or a plane structure or a planar, like in 2-dimensional sheet of paper, then what he suggested, you can simply press this whole structure from front. So while you are pressing it from front and you are pushing the paper by this atom, so probably this will be flipped upside and this will be flipped downwards. So as you press harder, this will move up, and these atoms are eventually going to arrange like this in 3-dimensional space. So that brings you the Emil Fischer's structure, and that will probably give rise to a planar structure which will have 4 different atoms connected to the central atom. The one that was in the front has now moved on to the top. The one that was the one that was in the back position, that now moved on the top. The one that was in the front, that has come to the bottom, and those which were in one plane, they now turn in left and right position. So to depict the glyceraldehyde structure in L or D form in 2 dimensions, was Emil Fischer suggested, we can simply have them represented by Fischer projections, where OH will be on left hand side in one case, and that will be represented as L-glyceraldehyde, and in another type of molecule, which is an enantiomer of glyceraldehyde, you will have OH on the right hand side and you will call it as D form of glyceraldehyde. So this is the beginning how structural diversity generates. We saw that simple glyceraldehyde molecule with 3 carbon atoms or triose sugar can have 2 different structures. Now what will happen if we will move ahead, if we will talk about let's say tetrose sugars. So in case of tetrose sugars, we are going to add 1 more carbon atom, and that will have another H and OH. So we can have 2 more possibilities. That means tetrose will have 2 D forms and 2 L forms. And when we go to pentose sugars, for example, then from each of these structures we will again make out 2 more structures. So we will have more number of stereoisomers. When we go for hexose, the diversity will further increase. And there is a simple mathematical relation to count these number of stereoisomers. This formula is 2 raised to power n. So n here is the number of chiral carbon atoms. In case of glyceraldehyde, the number of chiral carbon atoms is 1. That means you have 2 raised to power 1, that is 2 possible structures, and we have one as D-glyceraldehyde, another one is L-glyceraldehyde. On the other hand, when we talk about tetrose, 4 carbon atoms, there will be 2 asymmetric carbon atoms, and therefore according to the formula, 2 raised to power 2 will give rise to 4 structures, and we will have 4 different stereoisomers, 2 of which will be D form and 2 of them will be in L form. Subsequently, when we move to pentose, when we move to hexose, then in 6 carbon sugar we will have 2 raised to power 4 stereoisomers, and those stereoisomers can be equal to 2 into 2 into 2 into 2, and that gives you 16 different structures. So we have 16 structural isoforms that will be represented by a single formula C6H12O6. And that's not done. We still have ketones. We still have ketose sugars that might also have diversity. But one thing is different in ketose sugars, and that is ketose sugars, unlike aldose sugars, will not have any asymmetric carbon atom in the triose form, because central carbon atom has a double bond which represents a point of symmetry, and the first and third carbon atom also are symmetric. So we have only one stereoisomer for dihydroxyacetone. But as we move ahead, as we make tetrose sugars, which are in ketone group containing sugars or ketose format, we will generate 2 more isomers by virtue of H and OH positions. And then as we move to pentose, we will have 1 more stereocenter emerging out, and we will have even more number of stereoisomers in case of hexose sugars. So when we talk about keto containing hexose sugars, then the number of asymmetric carbon atoms in them will be just 3, whereas in aldose sugars it was 4. So we had 16 isomers for aldose, and we will just have 8 isomers for ketose sugars. Now what's the total? The total is 16 plus 8, that means 24 different structures which are representing C6H12O6. So after understanding that how this diversity is created and what is the importance of stereocenters in the carbohydrates, we will now focus on to the hexose particularly, and we will try to understand that how we can describe and how we can make all those 24 structures that I talked to you about, which represent C6H12O6. But I would like to make a note about one particular point here, that 2 important terms that you often listen, one is called as conformation, another one is called as configuration, are really different. You should not confuse between them. Actually, conformation is a term which is used for altered structures or alternative structures of a molecule, where you do not change the position of atoms by breaking a bond. I mean, you simply change the position of atoms without breaking a bond. Whereas if you change the position of atoms after breaking a bond or replacing an atom in place of another, then that structure is called configuration. So D and L forms represent configurations and not conformations. We can take simple example of our hands. Let's say these are two hands and one hand is mirror image of another. So we can call them as enantiomers of each other. And if you want to create this hand as this, so what you might have to do is, you might have to take out this thumb and put it here, and you have to take this finger, put it here, and then keep on going like this. Only then you will be able to generate this particular hand. So these two hands are actually representing configurations of each other, which are very much analogous to D form and L form of the molecules. But when we talk about conformations, they are also representing the diversity of molecules, and just like any other organic molecules, carbohydrates can also have large number of conformations. So if I take my palm like this and if I fold it like this may be representing one conformation, this might be representing another conformation, this might be representing another conformation. So just like that, we can have plenty of structures which might arise due to simply change in the position of atoms without breaking down the bonds. And this is apparent in various cases, like when you talk about puckering in the sugars, when you talk about the cyclic structures of sugars, particularly when we say it's like boat or it's like chair, then these kind of structures are often called as conformations. Let's now learn about some of the tricks to remember that those structures of carbohydrates, particularly hexoses. As we have seen in our previous discussion, that there are 16 different stereoisomers of aldohexoses and 8 different stereoisomers of aldoketoses, and they can be kept in the form of enantiomeric pairs. We can say that 8 pairs of enantiomers, or 8 pairs of enantiomeric structure for aldoses and 4 pairs of enantiomeric structure for ketones. So to remember these structures, I have developed a method and a notation which is known as sigma notation. This is a very simple approach. Here every sugar, every carbohydrate can be represented by a notation that will have a first letter of the sugar. As you can see on the screen, it will have G represented as first letter of the sugar. For example, glucose will be initiated by G, allose will be written with A, or so on. Then a small subscript that represents 6A, it indicates that number of carbon atoms in the sugar, and A represent aldose sugar. Then you have sigma. Sigma basically has been chosen because it represents the stereocenter or stereochemistry of the molecule, and on the top of the sigma you have a letter or a numeric value, like in this example 3. So this means the third hydroxyl ion or third OH group is actually on the left hand side, whereas rest of the things are on right hand side. So we can start making these structures by simply looking at this particular formula. If you know the formula, like if it is sigma 0, that means everything is on the right hand side. If it is sigma 2, it means the second carbon has got hydroxyl on the left hand side. If it is sigma 3, the third carbon has got hydroxyl group on the left hand side. This is how we can make structures of various carbohydrates. The sigma notations have various applications. They can be used for as a memory trick to draw all the structures. They can be used for determining the epimeric relationship. They are also helpful in determining R and S notations of the carbohydrates, and also they are useful in conversion of the cyclic structures from linear structures. So let us try to understand the sigma notation with the help of a simple model which I have built. And here you can see in this model that this particular structure is representing different carbon atoms, carbon number 1, carbon 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And you can say that this has been marked red because it is representing functional group bearing carbon. This is aldehyde CHO group containing carbon, whereas the flaps on right hand side of your right hand side, they are representing OH groups, hydroxyl groups, whereas on these sides there are hydrogen atoms which have not been shown here. So basically carbon number 2, 3, 4 and 5, they are representing the asymmetric carbon atoms in aldose, whereas carbon 1 and carbon 6, they are not asymmetric carbon atoms. And therefore we can create different diverse structures by rotating or by changing the position of H and OH across these asymmetric carbon atoms. Let's recall back our own formula, very familiar formula. And what did I tell you? It was AAGGMIGT. All alert guys get into MiG-20. and that can be associated with sigma notation. You start with sigma 0, then sigma 2, sigma 3, sigma 4, sigma 23, sigma 24, sigma 34 and sigma 234. So what does it represent? It represents 8 different isomeric forms that start with each letter: allose, altrose, glucose, gulose, mannose, idose and galactose, and finally talose. So these 8 stereoisomers can be easily depicted by these kind of structures. If I say this is structure where you have all the hydroxyl group on the right hand side, then this is representing sigma 0 or allose. If I just flip only one of these structures, one of these hydroxyl group, I am making OH on the second carbon to the left hand side. That means it can be depicted by sigma 2. So what is sigma 2 in the nomenclature? Sigma 2 is altrose. If I put this back, or if I flip only one of the carbon atom, that is carbon number 3, then according to AAGGMIGT, allose, altrose, third one is glucose, which is represented by sigma 3. Then I can again flip this and I can bring fourth carbon atom on this side. So I have sigma 4 now depicted with this picture or with this model. And what is sigma 4? Sigma 4 is gulose molecule. And finally, I can move these things in a pairwise manner. I can have sigma 2 3, I can have sigma 2 4 like this, or I can have another third molecule that is sigma 2 3 and 4. So you can easily draw on a sheet of paper the molecules by using this kind of guidelines. And when you have sigma 2 3 4, that is talose. When you have sigma 2 3, then it is sigma 2 3 is mannose, then sigma 2 4 is idose, sigma 2 3 4 is galactose. So this is how we can create different type of structures on your notebook. So now I think it should be very handy for you to make the diagrams of any kind of sugar, especially aldose sugar. One more thing, if you want to create L isomer of any molecule, so let's say this is representing, this structure as I said is representing sigma 0 and this is allose, but this is in D form. So if you want to make L-allose, you simply have to make a mirror image of that. That means if you have sigma 0 notation representing D-allose, you will have sigma 2, 3, 4, 5, which will be representing the L-allose depiction. Similarly, if you have sigma 3, which is representing glucose, this is D-glucose by chance, by this point, and if you want to represent L form of the glucose, you simply have to flip this and make a mirror image. So except for carbon number 2, carbon number 3, now carbon 2, 4, 5 and 6, these all are present on the right hand side. So this is how we can depict the sigma notations with the help of models. Now you can look in the picture that how these carbohydrates can be easily depicted. We have all these structures shown on your screen: allose, altrose, glucose, gulose, mannose, idose, galactose and talose. And we also have a mnemonic that is shown here, AAGGMIGT, which can be associated with sigma 0, 2, 3, 4, 23, 24, 34 and 234. So this is how you can easily create any of the 8 structures of aldose sugars. And similarly, if you take mirror image of these things, then you will be able to make remaining 8 L isoforms of these structures. Now let's talk about ketosis. So as we learned that ketosis will have 3 asymmetric carbon atoms. Carbon number 2 will be symmetric because it will have a ketose group. Carbon number 1 will also be symmetric because it will have CH2OH. But we will have carbon number 3, 4 and 5 which will be asymmetric. And by rotation of carbon number 3 and 4, we can generate 4 different kind of isomers which we can name as cyclose, fructose, sorbose and tagatose. And what's the trick to remember them? The trick is PFST, that's psycho, Frankie, short, Tanya. And if you remember that psycho, Frankie, short, Tanya, you associate with that sigma 0, sigma 3, sigma 4 and sigma 34. So the idea is that you keep on increasing the numeric value in ascending order and associate that with a mnemonic. So you have PFST, Psycho-Frankie Short Tanya, and then you have sigma 0, sigma 3, sigma 4 and sigma 34. And how do you recall those sigma notations? You remember? Whatever value is written on the sigma represents the OH on the left hand side. Rest of the OH are all present on right hand side. So if I say that psychos is representing a molecule where you have OH, sigma value is 0, that means no OH is on the left hand side, all the OH are on right hand side. Let's take the help again from that model, and this time I have shifted this red carbon from this position to this position. Now what does it indicate? This is now carbon number 1, which is symmetric by the way, and this is the second carbon now, which is also symmetric because it has a ketone group. This is carbon number 3, carbon number 4 and carbon number 5, and finally you have carbon number 6. So all the asymmetry in these ketose structures is being generated by change in position of H and OH over this position and this position. That's carbon number 3, 4 and 5. So if I have this structure where everything is let's say first make it on the right hand side, your right hand side. So this is representing sigma 0 for ketose. And what is sigma 0? Psycho-Frankie Short Tanya. P is 0. So that means psychos is being represented by this structure. Now when you want to represent fructose, fructose is sigma 3. So you can simply flip the hydroxyl group at this carbon atom at this particular position, and this structure is representing to you as fructose. Now if you want to represent one more structure, then what you can do, you can simply rotate like this. So this is representing sigma 3,4. And what is sigma 3,4? Sigma 3,4 is tagatose. So this was the idea behind use of this model for depicting these structures. Anyhow, you can see all these structures on your screen as well, and they can be represented by a simple structural representation which is known as Netta representation, and you will be able to get all those structures easily drawn by using these kind of notations. So you can have practice of your own, and you can draw, I think by now, all the 16 plus 8, that is 24 different structures of carbohydrates which are depicting C6H12O6. Now if you remember in the beginning of my presentation or my lecture, if you remember in the beginning of my lecture, I told you that there are more than 100 different structures which are representing C6H12O6. So still we are at 24 structures. What about remaining structures? Are there a few more structures that we can draw out of the same formula? Yes, we do. When we dissolve these molecules in water particularly, then there is a new kind of reaction happens. If you have studied a chemistry major, then probably you may be knowing alcohols, aldehydes, they can react together, alcohols and ketones, they can react together, because these carbonyl groups are highly reactive and they can easily connect themselves with the alcohol groups. Alcohol group is polarized, so it has got a oxygen atom which becomes polarized, negatively charged, and that can attack the carbonyl carbon, and there can be an association between them leading to the formation of molecules which are called hemiacetals or hemiketals. On your screen you can see the basic reaction and basic structure of hemiacetals and hemiketal formation. As you can see that how hydroxyl group is polarized and oxygen is slightly negatively charged. So this oxygen of alcohol attacks carbonyl carbon and they react together to form a bond, and that results in hemiacetal. Now what is important to know, every carbohydrate molecule, particularly if we talk about hexose, then there are plenty of hydroxyl groups and there is at least one aldehyde group or a ketone group. Now this aldehyde group or a ketone group can associate or can react with any of these alcohol group in a manner that the reaction we have just seen. And this kind of reaction leads to the formation of cyclic structures. that further adds to the diversity. So we have had 16 different structures for aldoses and 8 different structures for ketoses, and if all of them happen to make cyclic structures, there will be 24 into 2, that means 48 different structures. Now, how to make use of the sigma notation for depicting the cyclic structures? It's quite simple. When you make a cyclic structure, let's say the carbon number 5th in case of aldoses condenses with the carbon number 1st, and it interacts with that to make an isomeric form of glucose, let's say, and then it will be making a bond there, it will be giving rise to the cyclic structure. So that cyclic structure can be drawn simply by keeping in mind that whatever was in the right hand side will go down of the ring, and whatever was on the left hand side will remain up. So we already know from the sigma notation that sigma 0 means none of the hydroxyl group is on the left hand side, so everything is in the right. Means when you make a cyclic structure of allos, all the atoms are going to be at the bottom of ring. But when we talk about glucose, where you have sigma 3 notation, so you had one of the hydroxyl at the 3rd position on the left hand side, that means you will be able to make glucose structure by making a cyclic ring, and you can simply put H, OH, H, OH at all the positions by comparing what was on the left and what was on the right. So those things which were on the right, they will go down, and those which were on the left, they will go up. That means sigma 3, where 3rd carbon was having OH on the left hand side, there will be OH on the top of the ring, rest of the OH will be at the bottom of the ring. One more interesting thing happens when cyclization occurs. You might have noticed that during the cyclization, the first carbon atom, or the carbon atom which is bearing functional group like aldehyde in case of aldoses and ketone group in case of ketoses, also becomes asymmetric, since it is now connected with 4 different atoms. So one more asymmetric center is created, which means now it will make a difference when you make a cyclic form, that where OH is attached and where H is attached. So during the cyclization reaction, any sugar, whether it is aldose or ketose, it generates one more stereocenter, and therefore it gives rise to one more pair of stereoisomers. And those stereoisomers are generally depicted by a notation called anomers, because the functional group bearing carbon is called as anomeric carbon, and therefore these 2 stereoisomers are known as anomeric carbon atoms. Now, how do we remember these structures? If you have recalled all the remaining parts, everything that was on the right that goes below the ring, everything that was on the left that goes above the ring. Now what about this H and OH at the anomeric carbon? So if OH is above the ring and H is below the ring, in that case you can presumably say at the equatorial position or axial position, to be more precise, in the 3-dimensional space, then those structures where you have OH above and H below, that is considered as beta structure, whereas if OH is below and H is above, that is known as alpha structure. So when I'm saying above and below, this is just a relative aspect. If you flip all the hydroxyl groups and you also flip the hydroxyl group at the anomeric carbon, that becomes the mirror image of the first one, and that means we are generally talking about L isoform. So basically L isomer of glucose, which will be in beta form, that will have hydroxyl group below the ring and all the hydroxyl groups of the remaining carbon atoms above the group except for the 3rd one, as you can see in the image. So this was the idea behind cyclic structures. Let's have a recap of how many structures we have seen. We talked about 16 structures of aldose in linear form and 8 structures of ketose in linear form. So total there were 24 structures. Now 24 structures in linear form and 24 in the cyclic form, and that too 24 will be alpha anomers and 24 will be beta anomers. So 24 plus 24 plus 24, that gives rise to 72 different structures. So by now C6H12O6, the molecule that I shown in the beginning of my talk, that will be represented by 72 different structures, and you should be able to draw all those structures based on the sigma notation or based on the knowledge about anomeric rotation, that in which anomer you will have the OH above the ring or where you will have below the ring. One more interesting thing, We have seen in case of ketosis that the ring which is formed will be between fifth carbon and the second carbon. Although it is not necessary, because there are plenty of hydroxyl groups, and you may ask me that why fifth carbon is only reacting with the anomeric carbon, why not second carbon, why not third carbon? So it's a very genuine question. Actually, the reaction of these groups or reactivity in the order of formation of the hemialdehyde or the hemiacetal group or hemialdehyde groups, they may depend particularly on stability of the molecules, which molecules are stable. So whenever the ring is formed, it is generally seen that in case of aldohexoses, a six-membered ring is very stable, which is formed between due to the reaction between fifth carbon hydroxyl group and the first carbon hydroxyl group, and that means it will have a six-membered ring where the sixth carbon will be present on the fifth part of that ring, and oxygen will be making a component of the ring, as you can see on the screen, the structure. Now, in case of ketosis, the scenario is little different. Anomeric carbon that undergoes this condensation reaction is actually at the second position. Now, there may be possibility that when fifth carbon interacts with the second carbon, it gives rise to a five-membered ring. And these two type of rings, six-membered ring formed by aldoses and a five-membered ring made by ketosis, they are very much similar to few organic compounds named pyran and furan in organic chemistry. And this pyran structure is similar to all the structures formed by aldoses. So commonly aldoses are known as pyranose structures, whereas ketose sugar, they give rise to a five-membered ring similar to furan, and therefore they are called as furanoses. But it is not true that in all the cases and always an aldose sugar will make pyranose and a ketose sugar will always make a furanose. There might be a mutual exchange of these rings, and a small percentage of these molecules also have alternate structures, like ketoses may have pyranose rings and aldoses may also have furanose rings. So what's the total now? How many structures we have? We have 16 plus 8 structures, that means 24 structures for linear hexoses. Then we have 24 structures of cyclic hexoses which are in alpha form and let's say pyranose ring. Then another 24 structures in beta form and pyranose. Another 24 structures in alpha form, furanose. Another 24 structures in beta form and furanose. So altogether we can say there will be about 24 into 5, that is 120 structures. So I come back to my point that C6H12O6, which you saw in the beginning, can be represented by enormously diverse structures, almost as large as 120 different structures, and that is merely configurational diversity. I have not yet talked about conformational diversity that we will see in some other video lectures, but only configurations account for 120 different type of structures of carbohydrates, and by using this you will be able to draw all these structures in your notebook. Thank you.